So recently I dropped by Mr. Wilson's place to test the Galion TS120 on his system. My goal is to try the TS120 in as many systems as possible and to get as many opinions as possible. I call him Mr. Wilson because he owns a pair of Wilson Sabrinas. Let me start by giving you a quick overview of his system. First, he has the Lumen streamer. Now recently he bought the Altair G2.1, which I've reviewed, and felt the Auralic is more to his taste. Both are good. His other source is the Mcintosh MCD500 SACD player, which sounds really analog. I did hear both the Auralic and the Mcintosh CD player, and I have to say the Mcintosh CD player has the famous Mcintosh smoothness. Next, for his preamp, he has a Passlab XP30 reference line. This is a preamp that has triple chassis. One chassis just for the left channel, one for the right channel, and the last one for power. For the power amp, he has a pair of MC601 monoblocks. I was always curious about these monoblocks. The speakers are the Wilson Sabrina, which uses a soft dome tweeter, a 5.75-inch mid-range, and an 8-inch bass woofer. Finally, there is the JL Audio Fathom F113 subwoofer. So the whole system has an MSRP of over 65 grand. So how does this system sound? One word, smooth like butter. Well, that's 3 words. I mean, one of the smooth systems I've ever heard, but not rolled off. Detail, yet laid back. Solid, expansive soundstage, and excellent scale. Detail, not only on the top end, but also in the mid and lower bass. Surprising linear lower bass, which I was not expecting. Mr. Wilson told me before he had the Mcintosh 8000, and that one was more color. Bass was more punchy. But with this setup, his bass is gone. That is why he had to get a subwoofer. Sure, you get more details in the lower bass area region with this kind of linear bass, but the trade-off is, it's less fun. Great if you like neutral system, just a question of taste. Now, I told Mr. Wilson, a lot of people will pay big bucks for this kind of sound. Neutral, buttery, smooth sound. So after spending a bit of time listening to his system, I was concerned he would find the TS120 garbage. After all, you are comparing a $40,000 system before tax to a $3,500 tube integrated amp with everything included. That's 10 times less. Now, Mr. Wilson did not know the TS120 was an amp I was bringing to market. First minute he listened to it at low volume, he told me, just casual listening like this at low volume? Darn Thomas. This amp sounds as good as his own system. Different, but good. Now, once he realized it was my amp, he had to bring out his serious test track and gave it a serious listen. And of course, there's a difference. With the Galion TS120, the sharpness increased and it became a more lively setup. You lose the Mcintosh smoothness, but the top end sparkles more. The bass is no longer flat, but is now punchy. Mr. Wilson was very surprised that even at low volume, he could hear the bass. He was like, what the hell? In fact, he said with the TS120, he no longer needs his subwoofer because there was plenty of bass. The soundstage was Y&D. Well, that is the strength of tubes after all. Of course, the overall presentation is not as elegant and clean as his setup or smooth, but the TS120 was good enough that it did not embarrass itself. The biggest question I had for him is if it is too bright for his taste. Now keep in mind that Mr. Wilson has one of the smoothest systems I've ever heard. Overall it was okay, but in Class AB, listening to classical music and pushing the volume, he felt it was a bit bright. Once he switched to Class A, he told me he was fine with the sharpness. However, his preference was when I used tone control to bring the sharpness down an extra notch. For Mr. Wilson, who is used to a $60,000 system, which is voiced to be on the neutral side, he noticed the strong bass blends into the lower mid-range, the TS120, and as a result, he was able to hear less detail in the lower mid-range than in his system. However, he recognized that the TS120 voicing is more fun and more appropriate for the masses. In short, with the Sabrina, the amp is not sharp to the point it is fatiguing, even at high volume, in Class A, and with aftermarket tubes. We use TAD 6550 tubes, but I know Muller KT88 is even better. So That was my experience with the Wilson Sabrina and TS120. I did record a random sound demo and will include a link to it in the first comment as not to demonetize this video. Alright, hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you next time.